Call the Admin and Finance Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Dr. Beebe?
Here.
Dr. Beebe is present. Ms. Volpe? Ms. Volpe is absent. Ms. Bradford? Here. Ms. Bradford is present. Mr. Varby?
Here.
Mr. Varby is present. Mr. Dio?
Present.
Ms. Dio is present. Ms. Harris? Ms. Harris is absent. Ms. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Hill is present. Dr. Moranti? Dr. Moranti is absent. Ms. Jones?
Present.
Ms. Jones is present. Mr. Romer?
Here.
Mr. Romer is present. Ms. Smith?
Here.
Smith is present. The other four.
Thank you. First item.
Your consent agenda is ready for approval, adding items 5.2, 5.3, and 6.2.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Romer, second. Ms. Smith?
Where we at? No.
Ms. Hill? I'm sorry, you have a question?
Oh, no, I have a question.
Okay.
I thought you needed a second.
Oh, no, I have it. Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, thanks. I'll hold on to that one.
Wait, did we pull, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did we pull the item that we needed to pull?
I think that's...
It's not on consent? Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think we're good. Ms. Beebe?
Are
Dr.
we
Beebe?
on the first item?
We're on the consent agenda, yes.
Oh,
And-
the contract 2.1 of 50,000 and under?
Yes.
In other words, the first document 2.1, is that right?
Well, no, we're approving the consent agenda, which is 2.1, 2.2, and adding 5.2.3 and 6.2.
So 2.1 is a consent agenda?
Yes, it
it
is.
is. Well, then I'd like to pull it because I have a question for 2.1.
Okay?
May I ask?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I see that Mr. Noel.
I tell you what, let's do this. Let's pull that item and we'll park it, and let's pass the consent agenda, and then we'll
Okay.
come back to it. Okay, any objection to the consent agenda pulling item 2.1? Okay, motion carries. Next item, which I think will be 2.1. Okay?
Okay, so I have the floor?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Yeah. On page 3, there's a contract for $48,000 issued to Louisiana State University, and it says that, of course, you know, Dr. George Noel, the architect of BAM, will provide technical support. Well, the question is, we have suspended BAM, so why is it necessary to contract with Dr. Noel?
Number one, the state's accountability system uses it for progress points. We produce, meaning that's how it's calculated, in the K-8 system. We produce transitional growth data, which involves similar methodology. And third, we evaluate programs based on the value-added formula as well. Like 21st Century, for example, is evaluated based on those data. So we use those data for a variety of purposes, even if it's not being used in the Compass process.
So his role is just to provide support in the event that there are questions regarding the data?
Yes, ma'am.
He would provide that assistance?
Well, yeah, and he provides active day-to-day work on it, too. He provides analysis of it and so on. He checks to essentially make sure that it's accurate.
I need a motion to approve 2.1. Ms. Bradford, second? Mr. Romer. Okay. Continue discussion from the board. We have one card. Ms. Barrios? Okay. Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is on page 11, item 4.1, consideration of LDE contracts and leases of $50,000 and over. A handout has been distributed on this containing a technical change.
And the technical change is under special education policy, was listed as a contract, and it's actually an amendment. Do I have a motion to approve this item? Ms. Bradford? Mr. Romer, second. Any discussion on 4.1? Okay, motion carries. Next item.
On page 73, item 4.2, consideration of federal, state grants and allocations to LEAs, Type 2 charters, Type 5 charters, approved non-public schools, and community-based organizations, competitive and other. Recommendation is to approve.
Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Harris, second, Mr. Romer. We do have one comment card. I'll go to that while you're looking at it. Dr. Jennifer Tuttleton. Ascension Parish.
Good morning. Thank y'all. I'm here on behalf of the Ascension Parish School System, the students, the teachers, our administrators, to ask that you consider for approval our Believe and Prepare grant and the importance of continuing to improve our teacher quality in Ascension Parish. Despite our mission for improving student achievement in this ever-changing world, we continue to have concerns about our teacher effectiveness and the access that our students have, all of our students, to high-quality teachers. We are prepared to implement this grant and sustain its improvement efforts by implementing a job-embedded professional development program that allows us to have our become an in-house certifying agent. We have a desire to use this funding source, Believe and Prepare, to serve as seed money for us to begin the implementation of this program and again sustain it after the lifetime of this grant. We recognize the importance of a highly qualified teacher in every classroom, and we also have a long-standing history of being able to prepare and sustain teachers in Ascension Parish. We have been recognized for having over 93% of our teachers at the highly effective and effective proficient categories based on the Louisiana accountability system. So with that, we feel confident in our ability to continue to serve in this capacity and also feed into our already effective system by promoting this program and continuing to provide our students with highly qualified teachers. So again, we would ask that you would consider this Believe and Prepare grant. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here and your comments. Any further discussion on this item?
Yes, sir. I'm getting confused with the page. I have my pages more.
This is page 73, 4.2.
Okay, but there are, you have multiple areas that we're addressing, and certainly I do commend the works of Ascension Parish and other districts who are implementing programs that support our teachers, certainly with the mass exodus, and we hire new employees, new teachers. We need to continue to provide that support and assistance. But there was with that said, I might be moving into another area, another section. I think it dealt with. Might be in another. No, I'm sorry, it's in the other item. Yeah.
So you're good for now?
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I flagged a page, but it deals with the next item.
Okay.
But then again, all of those districts who have taken the initiative to continue to support their teachers, I applaud them.
Thank you, Dr. Beebe, for your comments. Any further comments? Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item.
On page 97, item 5.1, consideration of RSD contracts and leases of $50,000 and over. Recommendation is to approve. A handout has been distributed on this item with a technical change to back up.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Bradford, a second. Mr. Garvey? Thank you. Any discussion on this item from the board members?
I do, Mr. Garrett, on page 103, the contract with from Holly and Smith Architects. The justification, Superintendent Wright, can you clarify? It says that there was a change in the contract as a result of the contractor exceeding the contract time. So the amendment was for 40,000. Why? So let me see. I have to research this a little bit more.
Are you on page 103?
Yes, 103.
Holly and Smith Architects?
The question is why are we adding? Why are we amending it? Because it serves as an interim payment.
I'm going to let Ms. Hankins from the RSD here to comment.
I'm sorry.
Hi,
Yeah.
good morning. So what happens is when we gave the general contractor additional time to complete the job because he was running behind, you still have to pay an architect to monitor the general contractor. So what we did was we made the GC responsible for paying the contract, the architect. So we got a deductive amendment from the general contract, deductive change order from the general contractor to account for that amount, and now we have to pay the architect that amount.
Okay, but it says the funding source is FEMA. So,
Yes.
I mean, and of course, so you're saying the general contractor will reimburse the
Yes.
department
Yes,
to pay the contract?
yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was a red flag for me because it was at the fault of the contract.
Yes.
Any further questions on this item? Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item.
On page 170, item 6.1, consideration of 8G funding cycle activities. Recommendation is to approve.
Make a substitute, a different motion than what's in the book. And I'd like to, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion, then I can explain if I may. I'd like to
Sure.
make a motion that we revert to the original numbers. Those would be the numbers found on page 171 that are currently crossed out under block, statewide, et cetera. If you'll notice, when you look at those numbers, so let me make the motion, I'm sorry. I'd like to revert to the original numbers as passed by this board at a previous meeting that are indicated on page 171 that are the numbers that are currently crossed out.
Thank you, Mr. Romer. So effectively keeping the $500,000 in the current budget, in this
Correct.
budget.
If I get a second, I'll
Okay.
explain it.
Do I have a second? Mr. Garvey, thank you. Mr.
If I
Romer?
may take one moment. Board members, we passed the 8G budget. I can't remember if it was last meeting or the meeting prior to that one. That was a total of $24.5 million. That was prior to the submission of the administration's budget to the legislature. In the administration's budget to the legislature, they reduced our 8G allocation budget authority. The monies are available, but they were suggesting to the legislature that instead of $24.5 million, that it be a little over $24 million. I'm suggesting to our board that we stay with our $24.5 million. I believe the monies are available to fulfill the $24.5 million. We will have to go to the legislature. I testified some 10 days ago and brought this to their attention, and we will have to work with appropriations and the legislature to get the full $24.5 million. But I'd like the ability to go do that, and in order to do that, I need the number here to be $24.5 million that we originally were seeking. So that's the purpose of us changing what's here. What's here is reflective of what the administration requested, not what the board passed. I want us to go back to what the board passed and let us go work with the legislature to get the full $24.5 million.
Thank you, Mr. Romer, for the clarification. Dr. Beebe?
And Mr. Romer, my recollection of the discussion of the 8G distribution, and I remember very vividly that Walter Lee proposed a 50-50 split, the statewide and the block allocation, and I know Ms. Bofi put forth a proposal. And so as it was, we gave more to it ended up where Walter deviated from the 50-50 proposal and proposed that we give, I thought it was $2 million additional dollars to the Department of Ed, to Superintendent White. So this, I mean, I don't recall it being the 50% statewide and the 46%.
I'll let staff, and Ms., you may be in fact correct. My main point was to get back to 24.5 million. I'll let staff confirm what the number was that passed this board.
Kim Trippo, AG Director. The actual budget that's here, that was approved in October, and I know there was some conversation with Mr. Lee at the time, but it ended up being what's showing with the 11.3 for block and then the 12.3 for statewide. There was some conversation regarding that 50-50 piece, but ultimately it ended up with 1 million, just $1 million more to statewide.
Because I thought it was more than that. But
No.
I'm not going to.
So essentially what Mr. Romer is proposing is this go back to exactly what was passed.
To the original budget that was approved by the board in October of 2014.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So in the event if Mr. Romer, and I guess the team are not successful in getting the $500,000, then what will be the plan?
Well, we would have to, I assume, come back to this board with that information and with this allocation that, in fact, passes the legislature. So it's not completely, up to us. That's what I'm saying. We're going to go fight for. If we were happen to not get the 24.5 million, then we'd have to come back to this board and make sure these allocations, given their restraints, are appropriate. So it would come back to us. In fact.
So are we at this meeting, and I'm sorry for Mr. Dion for speaking out of.
I'm sorry, Dr. Beebe, say it again.
I said I apologize.
Oh, no, please, go ahead.
Now,
No, go ahead.
So in this particular item, are you asking the board to adhere to the recommendation found on page 170 where we would reduce both categories by, what dollar figure do we have? $227,665. Is that the requested action?
No, the motion is to not act upon what is here. I'd say probably what needs to happen is we just need to receive this rather than approving it. And what happened, there was a recommendation put forth to reduce it by the BESE office based on where the administration is. Mr. Romer's offered a motion to not do that, just keep the budget as we passed in October of 14. So I think appropriate, Mr. Romer, would be if you could amend it to receive.
I'm fine with that. That achieves the same thing. So we could receive this report. It doesn't change our budget, but I just want the board to know we will have to go to the legislature and seek the full 24.5 million. Authority to spend the full 24.5 million.
Mr. Gatt?
Yeah, Ms. Bradford.
So in the event that we come back and we are not successful at the legislature, then we still have not approved this. This would have to be brought back to us to be approved, but this piece would be brought back to us because we have received it.
But we've already approved this last October, correct?
Right, but if there are any changes, if I
Then we'd have
understand you,
to
Ms.
amend-
Bradford, then this budget will have to come back before the board.
We'd have to amend the budget.
We'd have
at
to,
that time.
it would have to be
I'm
revised.
I'm just making the point between receiving and approving.
Sure.
Okay, but I guess my concern is in the exec rec, it is saying there is a recommendation offered to reduce the block and the statewide allocation by $227.
There is, but Mr. Romer's motion does not accept that. He's basically saying.
So we're receiving the explanation offered. We're receiving the exec rec on page 170, and then we are waiting the feedback from the legislature.
That's correct.
We're not.
Okay.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then, and Ms. Bradford asked, what happens if? Well, then it was stated, well, we come back because we've received it, then does this automatically take place, or?
I think this is no different than any budget. If your monies are reduced, you're going to have to amend your budget to stay within those. So there's no need to reduce it at this
Well,
time.
why does it have to be the block allocation? Why
Well, it doesn't. What I'm saying is, I apologize for interrupting. I'll let you.
Go ahead, Mr. Romer.
We'll come back to the board. If we don't have the 24.5 million, the budget will have to come back to this board for approval. Just by receiving today, you're not approving these changes at all. Okay, so we're going to go and try to get the full 24.5 million as we passed in October. If for whatever reason we're unsuccessful in that and they do in fact reduce our budget authority on this item, it will have to come back to us to determine exactly how we do that.
And again, Mr. Gillott, the point I want to make, school districts have the same challenges. And then, so if budgets are cut, we have to live within our budgets. And that's my point.
But our budget, technically, it's not cut yet.
I can appreciate there is a recommendation.
We're
I
not
understand what
approving
you're
the
saying,
recommendation.
But then, it's the dollar amount. Initially, we allocated less in the block allocation, more to the statewide allocation, giving the superintendent additional dollars. So why should it be an equal distribution, if you will?
Look,
I think there should be conversations, discussion regarding the dollar amount. Am I missing the boat?
Well, I would say that there would be discussion if the board, if Mr. Romer's motion was to accept the recommendation from the BESE staff, then we would have debated how we wanted to proportion that. But the motion is to not change what we've passed previously, and let's see how the legislative session goes, and we'll deal with it if it becomes an issue.
Okay, and that's the point I want clarified, and you have. So we are not taking, we're not approving the staff's recommendation.
That's correct. At least that's the motion. I mean, we haven't voted yet. Mr. Garvey?
Mr. Chairman, I'll say one last thing. I want to make certain, too, it's clear to you. We knew we needed this. We thought we needed this item on this agenda today, okay, based on our original interactions with the administration. The recommendation from the staff, and we discussed it, was really to get the discussion started as you want it to be discussed. So this wasn't necessarily going to be, if we did have to approve a budget change today, this wasn't necessarily going to be the allocation. We were all going to have the chance to have that debate, which is, I think, what you want. So what I'm saying is, right now, let's just receive this item because we thought we had to originally take action today. We're going to take a different action, which is to go try to get the full allocation of the $24.5 million. If that's not successful, then we'll have to come back to this board and have that discussion, Dr. Stevens.
And I would reiterate, the staff has done what we need them to do. We need them to raise the question and for us to put it on the agenda and to debate it. Okay? Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if we are successful in getting the additional revenue, then the board would again have that discussion with regards to the way it's distributed.
I'm sorry, I'm not chair of this.
I'm just looking back and forth.
Mr. Romer, would you like to go ahead and comment?
We passed an allocation
Right.
according to
That's
the
correct.
24.5.
Right.
That has passed this. So if we get the 24.5 million, what we've already passed is what is in effect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any objection to Mr. Romer's motion? Motion carries. Oh, this is 6.2. I'm sorry, Ms. Barrios, you wanted to comment on this?
Yeah, actually, Lee Barrios, retired teacher from St. Tammany. Somehow I missed, my card didn't get up there for item 4.1, which was a contract to LSU for the teacher leader math instruction this summer.
Is that what you're commenting on now, or are you commenting on?
No.
Okay, you're
but I
commenting on.
believe it will meld into this. One of the one of the comments on the budget is that addresses the math instruction. And of course, that's an expenditure that's going to be spent. Given to LSU, it's somewhat under $100,000. So my question with that particular item, on this item, is the question of a conflict of interest, plus if the Kane Center is purported to have written Eureka Math, and if that's what they're going to be teaching, that at least districts be made aware that they are going to be teaching Eureka Math at the Teacher Leader Summit, and that these funds are going to be expended for that, so that those parishes that have withdrawn from Eureka will know that in advance. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
There was an item, the section dealing with the Louisiana Believe and Prepare grant. That particular item. There was also a section with the advanced placement. expenditure.
I'm a
St.
little
Martin
confused.
is a recipient
We
of.
just, we were on 6.1 a minute ago. Oh, that was the consent item.
You said it's coming
No,
up.
I'm not talking about the Louisiana Believe and Prepare grant, but there was an allocation to St. Martin Parish, $4,000 plus.
That-
I just wanted to recuse myself.
Okay, we'll reflect that in the appropriate section, Dr. Beebe. Okay, we'll get with the staff and do that. Thank you for that. Any further business before the
It was on
admin and
page
finance?
78.
Ma'am?
It was on page 78.
Okay, thank you. Please reflect that in the minutes, staff. I think this is a record, at least in my tenure here, to be finished with admin and finance in 25 minutes. We're adjourned.